Galveston, Texas, 1887. The air reeked of salt sweat and desperation. Inside a dilapidated warehouse by the docks, men with steely gazes and heavy wallets inspected rows of children, as if selecting livestock at a market. Rancher William Carter stood at the rear of the crowd, arms folded across a broad chest, his hat tilted low over a weathered broomstick. At 42, he was forged like the land he hailed from, rugged, sun-scarred, and shaped by years of drought loss and disillusionment. He owned one of the largest ranches in Brazos County yet. All that land felt hollow, and the house it encircled was silent as a grave. His marriage to Elizabeth, once warm and hopeful, now teetered on the edge. 15 childless years and countless miscarriages had carved more sorrow into their hearts than joy. William wasn't a man of many words, but even he began to wonder if silence was all they had left. What do you think of William's story so far? Like and comment below to share your thoughts. The auctioneer, a sharp-faced man in a bowler hat, barked out the next lot. Next up, girl. 14 years, field-raised, strong back, knows her letters and numbers some. Good with animals. A frail girl stepped forward, if she could be called that. Her frame was slight, almost bird-like, with a cotton dress clinging to her like worn muslin on a scarecrow. Mud stained the hem, and one shoe lacked its sole. But her eyes didn't match the rest of her. They weren't hollow or frightened like the others they burned. Dark, steady, calculating, as if she'd already sized up every door, every man, every chance. William felt a shift in his chest, a strange, sharp pang, familiar yet distant, like a ghost. Bidding starts at 20, the auctioneer called. 25, said a man near the front, John Harrow, owner of a bitter little farm outside Temple. William knew him, knew he worked his hands like mules and buried them quietly when they slowed. 30, another voice shouted. William's boot stepped forward before his mind caught up. 50, he said, loud enough to turn heads. The room fell silent. $50 was a year's wage for some. No one dared bid higher. The auctioneer's eyes gleamed. Sold to the gentleman in back, Clara Hayes. That's what the slip read. Orphan. Parents died of fever last spring. No kin, no claims. As William approached, she met his gaze squarely. No tears, no thanks, just those piercing eyes. You'll be working on my ranch, he said, tipping his hat. My wife will explain your duties. What if I say no? She asked, her voice soft but unyielding. William blinked. You've got a choice, he said slowly. But winter's coming and the streets here don't show mercy. Not to little girls, not to anybody. Clara looked around at the other children, still waiting to be sold, at the men with coin and cruel intentions. Then she looked back at him. Something in her expression shifted. All right, she said. I'll come. They rode in silence across the scrubland, the wagon creaking under sacks of grain and barrels of flour. Clara didn't speak, but William caught her watching everything. His hands on the reins, the angle of the sun, the path they took. She was memorizing it all. You planning to run? He asked after a while. She shrugged. Depends. On what? On whether you bought me for work or something worse. William's jaw tightened. He pulled the wagon to a stop and turned to her. Miss Hayes, I'm a lot of things, but I ain't a man who hurts children. I brought you on for honest labor. You'll work the house and garden, that's it. Any man who touches a girl against her will deserves a rope. That includes me. She studied him for a long moment, then gave a single nod. Fair enough. By sundown, the Carter ranch sprawled before them, weathered fences, cattle in the pastures, a sturdy timber house with a wraparound porch. It looked built to outlast heartbreak. Elizabeth stood waiting on the porch, her hands wringing her apron. She was still striking at 38, though the years had dulled her eyes. My lord, she murmured when she saw the girl, you didn't say you were bringing home a ghost. She'll need feeding, William said. And rest. She'll have the guest room, Elizabeth replied, already reaching for the girl's hand. No child in this house sleeps near the hearth like a dog. Clara hesitated, then followed. Inside, the air smelled of bread and wood smoke. William lingered on the porch, staring across the land he'd fought to keep, wondering what he'd brought home, and why her eyes still haunted him. What do you think Clara's next steps will be? Drop a comment and let us know. By the first frost of October, Clara Hayes had become a fixture at the Carter Ranch. She rose before the rooster each morning, her slight frame moving through chores with a quiet, relentless rhythm. She gathered eggs with careful fingers, split kindling like she'd done it her whole life, and moved through the vegetable rows as if she spoke the language of soil. Elizabeth had tried to keep her in the house, at first thinking her too delicate for barn work. But Clara had a stubborn streak deeper than the Brazos River. One day she calmed a panicked colt with nothing but a whisper and a length of rope. After that, the ranch hands gave her a wide berth and a new kind of respect. "She's a bright girl," Elizabeth said one evening, rocking gently on the porch. "Learns quicker than most grown men." William sipped his coffee, eyes following Clara as she helped patch a fence with Daniel Cooper, his foreman. She handled the hammer like she'd been born with it. "Maybe too quick," he muttered. "She's had to be," Elizabeth replied. "Girls on the street don't survive on charm." The ranch had known drought dust and hard winters. But this strange new life stirring inside their home was something else entirely. Elizabeth, who'd spent years walking like a ghost, now hummed while cooking. She sewed new curtains, taught Clara to bake peach cobbler, and spent hours brushing the girl's hair as if smoothing out her own regrets. One chilly afternoon, William found Clara in the barn mending a leather harness. Light filtered through the slats, turning the dust to gold. "Thought I'd find you out here," he said. She didn't look up. Harness was cracking. Figured it needed fixin' before the rains came. He leaned on the stall, arms crossed. "You always take note of things most folks miss." She gave a half smile. "You notice things when your life depends on it." William studied her. "Where'd you learn all this farming fixing things? Most girls your age are still playing dolls." "I never had time for dolls," she said quietly. "My daddy wanted to start a farm of his own. Taught me everything he knew before the fever took him. Ma used to read to me at night. She said even poor folk got a right to be smart." There was a long silence. The horses stirred, stamping and blowing against the cold. "You ever think about leaving?" William asked finally. Clara looked up, her eyes older than 14 had any right to be. "Every day." And then again, not at all. He waited. "I'm not used to places that feel safe, so part of me doesn't trust it. But another part," she trailed off, then shrugged. "Another part wants to." William felt that same ghost sting in his chest, the echo of a hurt too old to name. "You got a room here, Clara. Not just a bed. A place, whether you believe it yet or not." She nodded but said nothing. That night, as they sat around the fireplace, Elizabeth knitting, William reading from a cattle ledger, Clara picked up a book of her own, a weathered almanac. Her lips moved slowly as she traced each word. "You want to read proper?" William asked, setting down his papers. She looked up, hopeful. "I do." "Well then, we'll start tomorrow night, after supper. That is, if you ain't too tired." "I'm never too tired for that," she said, eyes bright. The weeks rolled on, and true to her word, Clara soaked up knowledge like parched land after rain. Reading turned into arithmetic, then ranch management. William taught her to track cattle profits, calculate feed ratios, and read weather patterns from the clouds' shapes. But he also noticed things, how she always sat facing the door, how she never asked for seconds at supper even when clearly hungry, how her eyes scanned the horizon every morning as if expecting ghosts to ride out from the trees. One evening he asked her outright, "Are you running from someone, Clara?" She was quiet for a long time, then said, Not anymore, but I used to. William didn't push. He just nodded and returned to marking cattle counts. He figured some truths were best unearthed when the ground was ready. How do you think Clara's past will affect her future? Share your predictions in the comments and give us a like. It was a frost-bitten November morning when Clara first noticed the glint. She was weeding near the chicken coop when a quick flash caught her eye, sunlight bouncing off something high in the eastern hills, too steady to be natural. She didn't say a word at first, just finished her chores, quiet and thoughtful, her eyes drifting back to that ridge again and again. 2 days later, she spotted unfamiliar hoofprints near the creek, too fresh, too deep. None of the Carter horses left prints like that. And one morning, she found a scrap of tobacco paper near the barn. William hadn't smoked in years, and none of the hands chewed leaf that fine. That evening, as they reviewed ranch ledgers in the study, she spoke. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, "I need to tell you something, and you might not like it." He set down his pen. "Go on. I wasn't completely honest the day you bought me." He didn't flinch, just waited. "My folks did die of fever, like I said, but I didn't live rough on the streets. I worked for a man named Victor Crane." William's eyes narrowed. He leaned back slowly in his chair. "I have." Crane wasn't just any man, he was a kingpin of Galveston's underbelly. Smuggling, gambling, brothels, extortion, you name it. Even the sheriff in Galveston was said to owe him favors. "I was good with numbers," Clara continued. "He used me to track payments. I kept his books, ran messages. I saw a lot of things I shouldn't have." "Did you steal from him?" Clara hesitated. "I took a little book. Ledger. It has names, dates, evidence of bribes, backroom deals, even payouts to lawmen. I thought if he ever came after me, it might buy me time." William stood, walked to the window, and stared out at the darkening horizon. "You think he's looking for you? I don't know. But someone's been watching the ranch. I feel it." He turned back to her. "Why'd you wait to tell me? I didn't want you to send me away." William crossed the room in 2 strides and put a hand on her shoulder. "Clara, what you did to survive, that doesn't make you guilty. But you should have told me sooner." "I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. That night, William called in Daniel Cooper, his longtime foreman, and gave quiet orders. They posted 2 night guards, doubled checks on the outbuildings, and warned the hands to keep rifles close. 3 nights later, trouble came riding hard through the fog. Clara, who'd grown into a light sleeper, heard them first, hooves tearing up the frozen ground like war drums. She bolted from bed, ran barefoot down the hall, and pounded on William and Elizabeth's door. Riders, 6 of them, coming fast. William was already reaching for his rifle. Elizabeth pulled on her robe, eyes wide with fear, but voice steady. Clara helped throw on coats, gather ammunition, and lock the front doors. The Carter house had been built to withstand storms and wolves, but not men with guns. William and Clara took positions at the front windows. Daniel Cooper and 2 ranch hands holed up in the barn. Elizabeth ran to the kitchen to check the back door and ready the shotgun stashed in the pantry. In the dim light of dawn, Clara spotted the lead rider and her stomach dropped. "Nathan," she breathed. The same ranch hand William had fired weeks ago, the one who'd cornered her in the kitchen. He wasn't alone now. 5 others flanked him, hard men with city-cut coats and street scars. Nathan raised his voice. "Carter, send out the girl and nobody gets hurt." William chambered around. "Get off my land before I put you down like a dog." Nathan laughed, cold and mean. "She took something that belongs to my employer. We just want it back." Clara felt the blood drain from her face. Crane had found her. The men started to spread out, 2 heading toward the barn, 1 circling left. A shot cracked through the silence. Daniel's rifle barked from the hayloft, dropping a rider from his saddle. Gunfire erupted. Bullets shattered glass and splintered wood. William returned fire from the front parlor. Clara grabbed the shotgun and ran to cover the rear. One of Crane's men tried climbing through the kitchen window. Clara didn't hesitate, fired point blank. He fell back screaming, blood painting the frost-covered ground. She reloaded with shaking hands, but her face was steel. Back in the front room, William caught a glimpse of Nathan moving behind the well pump. "Nathan," he hollered, "you were a damn fool on my ranch and now you're a bigger one. Give us the book and we ride," Nathan shouted back. "Or we burn you out." Clara stepped onto the porch, shotgun cradled in her arms. Voice clear, "You want the book, fine. But you leave and never come back. You tell Crane I'm dead." Nathan spat. Why would he believe that Clara walked down the steps, blood staining her sleeve from a shallow cut on her arm? "Because you're gonna bring him this." She pulled a strip of her old dress from her pocket, torn, bloodied, and burned at the edges. "You'll say I died in the crossfire, that the ranch burned me with it." Nathan hesitated, looked around at the dead man on the ground at the barn with its rifles, watching at William beside her like a thundercloud waiting to strike. "Deal," he muttered. They rode off into the rising sun, broken and bloodied, with nothing but lies and a piece of cloth. Inside, Elizabeth collapsed into Clara's arms, weeping. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Clara said, holding her. That night, as Elizabeth tended to bruises and splinters, and Daniel secured the fences, William sat with Clara in the study. "You sure about giving them that book?" "It was only ever insurance," she said. "I don't need it anymore." William nodded slowly. "You're braver than most men I know." "I just wanted to protect this place," she whispered. He looked at her then, not as a ranch hand, not even as a child, but as someone he'd risk everything for. The days after the attack passed in a strange golden quiet. No more strangers lingered in the hills, no more glints of metal at dawn, just the slow rhythm of chores returning as if the land itself was breathing easier. But something had shifted in the house. William caught Elizabeth watching Clara when the girl wasn't looking, something tender and tight in her gaze, like hope afraid to be spoken aloud. One evening, as supper dishes were stacked and the lamps lit with a warm glow, Elizabeth sat Clara down at the kitchen table. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "we need to talk." Clara blinked, wary. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, child, not at all." Elizabeth reached for William's hand. He'd just come in from checking fence lines, smelling of dust and leather. "We've been thinking about your future." Clara waited. "You've become family to us," Elizabeth said, voice trembling slightly. "Not just someone who works here. We'd like to make it official, if that's what you want." "Adoption?" Clara asked. William nodded. "It don't have to be today, or ever, but you should know we see you as our daughter, with or without a paper." Clara looked down at her hands. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I'm honored, truly. But before I say yes, I need to tell you what I want for my life." Elizabeth glanced at William, who nodded for her to continue. "I've been thinking about what happened," Clara said, "about how close I came to losing all of this. How many kids back in Galveston never had a place like this to run to." She looked up, eyes steady. "What if we helped more of them?" William leaned back in his chair. "You mean take in more children?" "Not just feed them and give them beds," Clara said. "Teach them, give them work, skills, a family, like you gave me." Elizabeth's hand went to her heart. "You want to turn the ranch into a sanctuary?" "A second chance," Clara said, "for kids like me who didn't get a first one." William looked down into his coffee, then back at her. "It'd be a big change." "We've already changed," Elizabeth whispered. This ranch was dying before she came. Now look at us. They sat in silence, the only sound the ticking of the wall clock and the wind brushing the window panes. Clara broke it. If we do this, we'll need to be smart about it. Choose carefully. Only take the ones who truly want it. William smiled, then just a flicker but real. I reckon we can manage that. Spring 1892. 5 years since blood stained the porch of the Carter Ranch. The land had healed, so had the people on it. Clara Carter stood on the wide plank porch, her boots dusted with trail grit, arms crossed as she watched a wagon roll down the dirt path from town. The wagon belonged to Daniel Cooper, still loyal as ever, reins loose in his calloused hands. Beside him sat a boy of 12, narrow-shouldered, sharp-eyed, and taut as a drawn bowstring. In the back rode 2 others, a girl no older than 8 clinging to a frayed doll, and a small boy whose face was smeared with soot and silence. Clara didn't move. She knew that look in the older boy's eyes. Suspicion, readiness to bolt. She'd seen it every morning in her own reflection once. William stepped onto the porch beside her. More strays Children's Aid Society sent them, Clara said. The boy's name is Henry. Parents died in a factory fire. Girl's Lily. Her mother left her at a church. The little one, Tommy, they found him under a boarding house porch. William let out a low breath. We taken all 3, Clara gave a short nod. For now. We'll see if they want to stay. The wagon stopped and Henry leapt down before Daniel could help him. He didn't speak, just stared Clara down like a stray tomcat daring someone to come closer. You, Clara Carter? He asked. I am, she replied. And you must be Henry Walsh. Maybe he said, chin lifted. Depends what you want from me. Clara smiled, not kindly but knowingly. Right now, just for you to come inside and eat. After that, we talk. As she led him toward the house, she glanced back at the others. Lily was helping Tommy down carefully, both wide-eyed at the barn's size and the children bustling across the yard, raking, feeding chickens, hauling water. Henry paused on the threshold. What is this place anyway? He muttered. Clara looked out across the land. A ranch. A home. A second chance if you want it. Inside, Elizabeth was already heating stew, her apron dusted with flour. She had aged, sure, but like oak, not ash. Strength in every wrinkle. Are they hungry? She asked her first question with every new arrival. 3 days on the road, Clara replied. What do you think? That night, Henry wandered out to the barn, curiosity breaking through his shield. There he met Joseph, an 18-year-old who now worked full-time as the ranch's blacksmith. You knew, Joseph asked, glancing up from a horse's hoof. Maybe, Joseph grinned. I was the same way, spent my first week planning how to sneak out. Figured it was just another kind of prison. What changed your mind? They kept their word, taught me real skills, let me leave if I wanted to. I didn't. Henry squinted. And they never tried nothing. Weird, Joseph's smile faded. Ain't nobody here lays a hand on a child. You raise a hand to hurt someone on this ranch, you ride out in the dust. Henry didn't answer, just looked around the barn again at the neat tools, the healthy horses, the sturdy beams overhead. He stayed. They all did. Over the next year, the 3 newcomers grew into the ranch like seedlings in spring. Henry took to mapping the land, surprising everyone with a sharp instinct for water and terrain. Lily turned out to have a way with wounded animals. Tommy didn't speak for 2 months, then one morning sang an entire hymn in perfect pitch while cleaning tack. The ranch prospered too. Clara had negotiated deals with buyers out of Kansas City, tightened the books, and organized the hands like a military unit. Profits rose. But more importantly, hope bloomed. At night around the fireplace, children took turns reading aloud. Elizabeth taught them cooking. William taught them to ride. Clara taught them how to be brave. One evening after lights were dimmed and dishes done, William poured himself a glass of whiskey and leaned against the porch rail beside Clara. "You realize what you've built here?" Clara didn't answer at first. "I didn't build it alone." "No," William agreed, "but it wouldn't be what it is without you." She turned to face him. "Do you ever regret buying me?" He laughed deep and low. "Best damn $50 I ever spent." Clara's gaze drifted to the bunkhouse where lanterns still glowed through the windows. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been at that auction." William's voice softened. "But I was. And you took a chance," she whispered. "No," he said. "You did." The summer of 1893 came in dry and mean. By June, the creek beds had cracked open like old scars, and the grass in the lower pastures curled and died underfoot. Clouds gathered on the horizon only to break apart like empty promises. At the Carter Ranch, water barrels were measured like gold. Every drop counted. William stood in the barn one morning holding a limp calf in his arms, its ribs sharp under his fingers. "This is the worst drought I've seen in 20 years, he told Clara. She nodded, face unreadable. "We'll adapt, but we'll need to make hard choices." They called a meeting in the main barn that evening, every ranch hand, every child from the smallest stable sweeper to the oldest wrangler. Clara stood before them, back straight, voice clear. "We won't lie to you. The drought's killing cattle across the state. We'll need to sell early conserve feed and find new water fast." Henry, now 13 and bolder, raised a hand. "What about us? Will we be sent away?" Elizabeth answered before anyone else. "No. This family doesn't scatter when times get hard. We hold." Joseph stepped forward. "You've all done more for us than anyone ever did. Now it's our turn." A murmur of agreement rolled through the crowd. Over the next few weeks, the ranch transformed into something else entirely, not just a home or an operation, but a collective act of defiance against the sun. The older children took on full shifts, mucking stalls, hauling feed, riding fence lines with rifles over their shoulders. Henry, under Clara's guidance, charted the land and identified 2 spots for new wells. Digging began the next day, blistered hands and all. Lily nursed weak calves with mixtures of molasses and milk. Tommy, who rarely spoke, began waking before dawn to sweep floors and refill troughs without being asked. And Clara, she was everywhere. She rode into town to renegotiate hay shipments. She taught the younger ones to ration without panic. She kept the ledgers balanced and the morale steady. She patched boots, managed books, and brokered sales on weak stock before they lost too much weight. "Don't sell from panic," she told William one night, wiping her hands clean with a rag. "Sell smart, sell early, buy again when the market rebounds. You sure you're not running this place already?" he asked, half smiling. Clara only shrugged. "You taught me well." But the toll was real. One morning, a mare collapsed in the field. Another calf died in the night. The well near the north barn dried to mud. William found Elizabeth sitting on the porch swing, hands shaking around a tin cup of water. "I keep thinking about when it was just the 2 of us," she said softly. "That old silence. It's trying to come back." He sat beside her. "It won't. We won't let it." She nodded, eyes misted. "Clara, she holds this whole place together." "She does," William agreed, "and it's time we told her that." That evening after supper, they brought Clara to the study. She looked tired, dust streaking her sleeves, her braid wind-frayed, but her eyes were steady. "We've been talking," William said, "and we think it's time to make it official." Clara blinked. "What do you mean?" Elizabeth reached out, took her hand. "We want you to be a full partner in the ranch, not just our daughter in name. An equal." Clara froze. "But what about when you have children of your own?" William and Elizabeth exchanged a long look. "We already have one," Elizabeth said gently. "And all these other kids. They're our legacy too." Tears welled in Clara's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Elizabeth whispered. Clara nodded. "I'll earn it every day." William grinned. "You already have." The rains finally came in late September, not in sheets or storms, but a slow, steady blessing that soaked the earth and filled troughs and spirits alike. The children danced barefoot in the puddles. Cattle raised their heads. Grass whispered green once more. The ranch had survived. No, not survived. Endured. Together. And in the heart of it stood Clara, no longer just the girl from Galveston, but a leader molded by grit and grace. By the spring of 1903, the Carter Ranch had earned a reputation across Texas. Not just for its cattle, though their stock was some of the strongest this side of the Brazos, but for something so rare, redemption. That year, the governor himself came out from Austin accompanied by members of the Children's Aid Society and a string of newspapermen with ink-stained hands and curious eyes. They called it the Carter Miracle. Clara Carter now. Clara Thornton stood at the front steps of the main house, wind tugging her hat strings, watching the wagons roll in. At 29, she wore confidence like leather, weathered, dependable, earned. Beside her stood Michael Thornton, her husband of 1 year, and Daniel Cooper's younger brother. A quiet man, sharp, with numbers, slow to speak but loyal to the bone. Together they had no children of their own, but they'd raised over 60. As dignitaries dismounted and shook hands, the governor approached. "Mrs. Thornton," he said, tipping his hat. "Or should I say Miss Carter? Clara works just fine," she replied with a smile. "We've heard remarkable things," he said. 90% success rate. "These children you've taken in, they've gone on to good lives." Clara nodded. "Teachers, ranchers, businessmen, and a few like Henry Walsh runs a freight line from Waco now." At that, Henry himself stepped forward, tall and broad-shouldered now. Nothing like the wiry boy she'd met more than a decade earlier. "I came here angry," he told the crowd. "Didn't trust anyone. Clara didn't try to fix me, just gave me choices. That was enough." Another voice chimed in, Emma Ruiz, now a school teacher, her hair pinned up her eyes kind. "They didn't just feed us, they believed in us and taught us to believe in ourselves." The governor nodded, impressed. "And your model, do you believe it could work elsewhere?" William, now grayer and slower but still iron-backed, answered. "It can, but it takes more than money. It takes folks willing to see children not as burdens but as souls worth saving." Elizabeth, her hands dusted in flour as always, stepped out just in time to catch the last of it. "It takes love," she added, "and patience, and grit." That night, long after the speeches ended and the guests had gone, the ranch family gathered around the long table for Sunday supper. Children, now grown, returned with their own stories, their own families. Some stayed on to help raise the next batch. Some brought letters from those too far to return. William stood and tapped his glass. 18 years ago, I bought a girl at a labor auction for $50, he began. I thought I was saving her." He looked toward Clara, "But she was the one who saved me, saved all of us." He sat down, voice thick. Clara rose, her gaze sweeping the table past the old, the new, the ones just finding their feet. "This ranch proves one thing," she said, voice clear and steady. "That family isn't always blood. It's choice. It's commitment. It's second chances." A cheer rose, glasses raised high. To second chances they echoed. Years passed. Clara continued to teach ranch work and bookkeeping to the next generation. She walked the same fields William once did, sometimes beside him, sometimes without. When he and Elizabeth slowed with age, she and Michael took the reins without ceremony. One summer evening, Clara sat with a sharp-eyed girl named Sophia, 13 and fresh from the rail yard slums. They pored over cattle pricing ledgers, ink-stained fingers smudging the pages. "If we ship to Kansas City instead of Fort Worth, we make more, right?" Sophia asked. "About $3.50 more per head," Clara replied. "But longer haul means more cost." "Exactly." Clara smiled. "And what does that tell you? Timing matters," Sophia said. "We ship when the margins outweigh the risk." Clara leaned back proud. "You'll do fine here." Sophia looked up. "Why do you take us in? You could have had an easier life." Clara was quiet a long time. "Because someone once gave me a chance. The only way I know to honor that is to pass it on." Outside, the sun set slow and golden across the Texas hills, turning the barn roofs to copper and the sky to flame. And in that light, the Carter Ranch, built on blood, grit, and stubborn love, stood tall against the wind. A place of second chances, a place to belong, forever. The story of Clara Hayes and the Carter Ranch offers profound life lessons about resilience, compassion, and the power of second chances. It illustrates that family is not defined solely by blood, but by choice, commitment, and unwavering support, as seen in Clara's transformation from a wary orphan to a leader who builds a sanctuary for others. Her journey underscores the value of trust both in others and oneself, showing how courage and honesty can overcome a painful past. The Carters' dedication to nurturing abandoned children highlights the importance of empathy and giving back, proving that even in hardship like the drought, unity and determination can triumph. Clara's story teaches us that everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their future, no matter their circumstances, and that love and grit can heal broken spirits. It inspires us to act with kindness and create opportunities for those in need. What lessons did this story teach you? Like, share, subscribe, and comment below to join the conversation and spread the message of hope and second chances.